Hi everybody, welcome back to Echo. So I did my, I read ahead like I usually do, and I am going to have to split the final day of Leo's route into multiple parts because it is far too long for me to be able to do it all in one go. I was barely able to do all of Saturday in one recording session. I was struggling to hang on by the end there, I'm sure you noticed. So I'm going to split this up into 2 or probably 3 parts, just to make it more manageable on my end. Having said all that, this episode is also going to get kind of intense, although not as intense as last time in my opinion. But with all that out of the way, let's get started. We try to keep off the road and the brush on our way to Duke's house. Despite our situation, the biggest thing on my mind right now is ticks. Funny how the mind works. Faint shouts and yells coming from the town are more frequent now. Another pop comes from that direction. It reminds me of the gun Kudzu has tucked into his waistband. He's never used one before, and it took us a solid couple of minutes to decide if he should even stick it there. Another pop. I can't help but think that that's where the motel is, where Jenna might be. Here, though, not much is out of place aside from the smell of smoke on the breeze. That is, until we come across a body hanging from a tree about 100 yards from Duke's house. I'm the first to notice it, and when I do, I gasp and instinctively reach for Kudzu. He catches my hand, then looks up as he holds on to me. It's high up, maybe 50 feet, but from the markings on the fur, I think it's a fox. Oh, Jesus. Kudzu whispers next to me as I look away, feeling my stomach turn again. What the hell? How did he get up there? I look back and see that he's hanging by his wrist. I don't think he could have done that himself. Yeah. We both stare up at him for a little while longer, long enough to notice the long, vertical slashes down his back. Those are the same cuts I saw on the other guy, Kudzu whispers distractedly. But who put him up there? Kudzu's silent, and I keep staring up at the guy, the first dead guy that I've ever seen. Suddenly, all of my motivation to get Leo starts to evaporate. Kudzu rests a hand on my shoulder and I jump. Sorry. Kudzu pats me. You alright? I'll take you back, okay? That sounded like the best idea in the world right now. I hesitate. When I think of Leo, I imagine him in the same situation as I was with Brian. Duke didn't seem as fucked up, but I have no idea what he's capable of. That thought makes it feel as if my heart is dropping through the ground, so I grit my teeth and shake my head. No, I'm okay. Kudzu looks at me closely, then nods. Okay, let's move back towards the road, though. I don't think anyone is around right now anyway. I want to move towards the road, too, mainly because I'm actually starting to worry that moving further away from the town really is dangerous. Duke's house is dark as we approach it. As we get closer, though, I see flashes of light from a window well. We both crouch next to the house, behind a small cluster of sagebrush. Alright, so all I can really think to do is knock on the door, see if he's there. I swallow. You stay hiding, of course, but if he does come out, I don't know, I may try to put him down right there. Then I'd come out and help. Kudzu lets out a low chuckle. Yeah, but again, I'm not sure if that's what I'll do. We might be able to talk him out of this. Yeah. I don't have much faith in that plan. But if he isn't there, well, we'll probably go in and find Leo, alright? Okay. My heart rate picks up as I realize how close we are to making this happen. I start to have second thoughts. Maybe we should have at least looked for the sheriff? Maybe we should have gone straight to the motel? Alright. I can tell Kudzu is nervous too, as he wipes his hands on his tank top before standing up slowly. Just watch from here. If he comes out with his gun, though, I'm not going to try anything. He hesitates. And if I get shot or something, don't help. Just run back to my house and start looking for your other friends, I guess. Now I'm really starting to feel unprepared for all of this. Everything is moving way too fast. There isn't really any time, though. We have to save Leo as soon as possible. There's no telling what Duke might be doing with him. As Kudzu starts to move away, I get the urge to hug him. He's done so much for me already, saving me and now trying to save Leo. But by now he's already halfway across the yard to the house. I hold my breath and watch as Kudzu's dark form melds in with the blackness of the house. It's like he's being swallowed up by it in a way. After a few moments, I hear him knock on the door. I listen, trying to breathe through my mouth instead of my whistling nose so I can better hear what's going on. Kudzu knocks again, much more loudly. Hey, it's Kud! I need some help! I look up and down the road, worried someone's going to hear his shouting. There's a slight rustling behind me and I look back, eyes wide. I don't see anything at first, but then I feel like there's a shape behind another grove of sagebrush about 20 feet back. Something crouched, the moonlight defining its shape through the brush. I squint, completely stopping my breathing. It looks like it has a tail, a really thick one, like an otter. Was it Dale? I can't even tell if it really is a person, though. Jace! Kudzu whisper shouts and I jump before stumbling to my feet. The shape behind me doesn't move at all, and I try to reassure myself that it's probably a rock. I jog over to Kudzu as he tries the door, trying to not think too much about what I just saw. Locked. He looks around for a while, then starts moving down the side of the house. Look for a window. Are we gonna break one? Maybe. Should only take us a few minutes to sweep the house, then we can get the hell out. We quickly spot a window on the back of the house. Kudzu looks in and bites his lip. I just worry the Duke might still be in there with a gun or something. He bends over, picking up a sizable rock. Welp, not much choice. If I say run, run. Got it? I nod, and Kudzu lifts the rock above his head before smashing it through the window. The sound is probably the loudest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. I cover my own ears like that's gonna lessen the sound. Kudzu jumps to the side, away from the window, reaching back to hold on to me. The fur on Kudzu's body frizzes up, and I see his ears perked up as far as they can go. Once the final tinkling of the glass subsides, we both listen. My ears are ringing, but the only other sound I can hear are the chirping of the crickets. Finally, Kudzu lets out a soft breath. Alright, let's go. I help him push out a few more shards of glass. Once that's done, the raccoon hoists himself inside, very carefully maneuvering around the sharp, broken edges. He turns and reaches out to me, helping me through in the same fashion. Even though I'm trying to be careful, when I bring my arm in, it drags along a jagged edge of glass sticking out from the side. I grimace, the fiery pain taking a moment to really set in. Shit, you okay? He grabs my wrist so he can pull up my arm up to examine it by moonlight and sucks in a breath. Oh fuck, you might need stitches for that. That's when I see the blood starting to ooze up from the fur. It's only about an inch long, but the amount of blood coming out is surprising. Damn it. I'll take care of it after we find Leo. I pull my arm away, despite Kudzu still trying to take a look at it. Alright, I'll see if we can't find something to wrap it up in. Kudzu starts fumbling along the wall and finds a light switch. Excuse me. I'm surprised to see a fairly quaint and tidy home. Unlike Kudzu's trailer, though, there's barely anything in it. There's a single sofa and a very old-fashioned TV in what I presume is the living room. There's a fireplace and a few dirty-looking chairs on the other end of the room. In front of us is a long hallway with a few doors on both sides. Alright, check every room and door. It's not a very big house. Kudzu sets off down the hall. Look for stairs. I feel like he'd be in the basement. As Kudzu goes into a room to the left, I peer into one on the right. It looks like a bedroom with a single twin in the middle of the room. I take a few steps in, looking around and not seeing anything else. When I turn back around, I do see some picture frames hung up on the wall. Seems kinda odd for someone like Duke to have those up. In the pictures, I see a much younger Duke, or at least a pre-meth Duke. Next to him is a female weasel. Her smile's small compared to Duke's tooth-bearing grin. She's in the 3 other pictures next to that one, too. Weird. I wouldn't have thought anyone would want to be with Duke, especially someone as pretty as that weasel. I move on to the next room, and this one is completely empty, painted white. The next door down is the last one on the right side of the hall. This is the only door that's closed, and, like the last room's walls, it's painted white. It's taller, and seems to be a bit thicker than the other doors. When I try the knob, it's locked. Kudzu? I whisper, and Kudzu pokes his head out from the door just behind me. What's up? I point at the door in front of me. This one's locked. Kudzu stands in front of the door and presses his ear to it. I see his hand hover in front of the crack between the door and its frame. Then he reaches out to my hand and pulls it up to the same spot. He looks at me. You feel that? I'm about to say no, but that's when there's a noticeably cooler draft coming from within. It's kinda cold. The basement. I'd bet my ass that Leo's down there. I swallow. Should we try to break down the door or something? I don't... Kudzu's ears suddenly perk up straight and his eyes widen. My fur bristles out. What? That's when I hear it. The crunching of gravel. Kudzu grabs my arm and starts pushing me back down the hall towards the back room with the broken window. At that moment, I hear the knob turn, and suddenly my path changes direction as Kudzu steers me into a room on our left. It's one of the rooms I hadn't looked into myself, and I see that it's a storage room. Boxes are everywhere, and so is a bunch of junk. I guess that explains why all the other rooms are so spotless, and that he's not using his basement for storage. Kudzu looks around desperately for a moment, then pulls me behind a mound of boxes just as I hear the door swinging open. The problem ain't that he got away! Duke is practically screeching when he comes inside, as if he's been waiting to be indoors before he yelled. Underneath Duke's pattering feet on the wooden floor, I hear two loud thumps, and I know immediately who's with him. My blood runs cold and my breathing seems to stop, worried that they'll be able to hear even that. If he's behind all this, he's gonna make things so much worse! Huh. I hear a non-committal grunt from the bear, and I shudder at the sound of his voice again. I feel a light touch on my back as Kudzu rests his hand there, trying to comfort me. What do you mean, huh? You like the dreams you're having right now? 'Cause trust me, it's gonna get a hell of a lot worse. I hear a smacking sound, which I imagine is Duke's tiny hand trying to slap Brian in the face. What the fuck you staring at? Duke's grating, nasally voice echoes around the carpetless house. Your window. There's a moment of silence as I hear some shifting around. Then suddenly I hear Duke's footsteps bustle down the hall. I duck more deeply behind the boxes as he passes the doorway to our room. Fuck! Fuck! Is someone fucking in here? Brian's lumbered down the hall, basically standing right in front of our room. I hear two more thumps and a bunch of rustling as Duke ineffectively beats at the bear's bulk. Fucking idiot! They broke in! I hear a jingling of keys as Brian continues to shout. I mean, Duke, that was not Brian, that was definitely Duke. Said so in the text box. Sorry. Check every fucking room. I'll bet they broke through the basement window too. Fuck! Now that he says it, breaking through the basement window might have been a better idea. Looking between a crack in the boxes, I get a flash of the weasel walking past the door again. He's holding something long and shiny. I shrink back against the boxes, wondering how in the world I got here. As I stare at the ground, I also wonder if I'm about to have a heart attack. I focus on watching the blood seep from my arm, pooling on the wooden floor next to me. I hear a key go into a lock and a doorknob turn. I swear to God, if that wolf ain't down there, I'll blow your goddamn face off! Duke's voice fades away, accompanied by receding footsteps down the stairs. The heavy footfalls of Brian start to move around slowly toward the other end of the hall. Kudzu moves his hand up to my shoulder. I look at him and he holds a finger up to his lips, then points in the direction of the broken window. I don't want to move at all. In fact, I'd rather sit here and just disappear into the floor. Somehow, though, I'm able to force myself to my feet as Kudzu tugs me up. We move very slowly to the doorway, and there Kudzu holds up a hand, making me pause. I watch his ears perk, flicking in the direction of Brian. My hearing probably isn't nearly as good as his, but I'm still able to pick up the bear's heavy, labored breathing. I hear some shuffling, then more heavy footsteps. Kudzu freezes as he listens to the bear move back into the hallway. Then his footsteps fade away. I imagine he's moved into another room, and that's when Kudzu finally peers around the corner. I hold my breath, but Kudzu reaches back and grabs my wrist, pulling me out into the hallway. It's empty, and as quietly and quickly as we can, we move to the end of the hall, just stand next to the broken window. Excuse me again. Kudzu sticks one leg out the window before balancing his entire weight on both his hands that are resting on the bottom ledge. Like a gymnast, he moves the other leg out and quietly drops to the ground outside, his head narrowly missing the top ledge. I don't know if it's because he's a raccoon or an actual gymnast, but there's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to do that. Kudzu's already reaching for me though, his eyes wide with frantic worry. I can hear shuffling sounds behind me again, coming from one of the rooms. Kudzu reaches out towards me, then suddenly waves his hand wildly in the direction of the room right next to me. Heart pounding, I almost stumble through the doorway into the room. This one has a few chairs stacked up against the side of the wall, and what looks like a closet door. Brian's footsteps thump down the hall again, and I almost gasp as I get a glimpse of his massive shadow through the doorway. But then it disappears as I hear his footsteps move into the room right next to me. From just inside the room, I see Kudzu slowly pop back up in front of the window, then motion frantically towards himself. My legs are like jelly, though, and I hesitate. Then there's a raspy dragging sound in the room next to me that almost makes me jump. It's the sound of a cardboard box being slid across the floor. I hear Brian mumbling, definitely not paint. I force my numbed feet to stumble out into the hallway, toward the window. Kudzu reaches for me, his eyes desperate, but then I hear the shuffling behind me again. Why is he moving so fast now? Automatically, I step back into the room while Kudzu continues to beckon to himself. Brian's lumbering footsteps move down the hallway, slowly in my direction. Kudzu is ducked back down, out of sight. I'm alone. And trapped. I remember the closet at the last minute and lunge toward it, not having enough time to worry about the sound I make. Somehow, the closet door glides open with hardly a sound, as if the hinge had just recently been greased. I step inside, then swing the door shut, trying not to let it snap closed. At that exact moment, Brian's lumbering gait enters the room. I shrink back against the wall, holding my hands to my mouth, trying not to breathe. My heartbeat is so loud it's the only thing I can hear as it pounds in my ears. I hear coughing and grunting coming from behind the door. Then it goes quiet. I wait, unsure of whether the bear has left or not. Slowly, I walk up to the door, pressing the side of my head gently against it. I listen, trying to see if I can hear anything. I swallow, and reach up to rest my hand on the doorknob. I think about making a run for it, maybe trying to dive through the window. I might get hurt, but if I'm able to get away... I wait for what feels like 2 or maybe 3 minutes. It's complete silence on the other side. I wait even longer, to the point where I'm sure there's no way someone like Brian could keep that quiet that long. So slowly as I can, I push the door open. And it immediately comes into contact with something on the other side before it's even a foot open. It's soft, whatever it is, and the door almost bounces back from it. I wait for a moment, then, as I'm starting to realize what just happened, a massive bear paw reaches around the edge of the door. In the next half second, the door is ripped open and I find myself facing Brian. A weird, numbing feeling spreads down from my crotch and into my legs, and I sag in front of the bear. My mind refuses to think, to even process what my eyes are seeing. What it does process is pure terror. Brian seems to have trouble understanding what he's seeing as well. He stares at me for a few seconds, his eyes practically crossing as he focuses on me. Then he grins. Hey, you! I can't respond. Instead, I press back into the closet, flattening myself against the wall as he reaches out to me. Still, there isn't much I can do as he grabs the front of my shirt and yanks me out of the closet. He starts to pull me toward the doorway, and as I stumble into the hall, I'm finally able to start trying to move again. Seeing the window, I lunge toward it, but Brian's grip is too strong. I hear a few popping sounds as some threads in my shirt give out, and Brian yanks me back violently. Everything goes black as something massive knocks up against the side of my face, and the next thing I know I'm thrown down the hall, flat on my back. I'm staring up at the ceiling, watching it slide sideways above me, like it's painted onto a treadmill. My right foot is hiked into the air, and I realize that Brian's dragging me along the floor now, back toward the end of the hall. The fur on my back glides easily along the hardwood, my shirt scrunching up to my chest. Brian stops as he reaches the white door, pushing it open. Dizzily, I look up at the window, wondering if Kudzu is there and if he can see me. I reach towards it, but that's when I'm being dragged down again and I land painfully on the first step. I gasp and turn sideways, so that as Brian drags me clumsily down the rest of the steps, my spine isn't taking the rest of the corners. It's dark, and the air turns cool and musty. We finally reach the bottom of the steps, pain pulsing at various points on my body from the rough handling. Brian starts dragging me again, and I finally realize that he's going to have me trapped again. He'll do whatever his sick mind thinks up, and there won't be anybody there to stop him. No. I moan and try to grab something, anything, to stop me from being pulled deeper into this basement. My hand manages to latch onto a wooden beam next to the stairs. Brian grunts as my body is snapped into full extension and we're brought to a halt. Come on, let's go. I keep clinging to the beam, imagining that at any moment Kudzu is going to come running down the stairs, gun in hand. That comes to an end as Brian kicks me in the chest and I let go of the wheeze. You know you're the one making this hard on yourself. He starts dragging me again as I curl up and cradle my chest, vaguely hoping that he'd give me a heart attack and I'd be free from all this. I swear to God, if you're lying to me, Leo, I'm gonna paint the ceiling with your fucking brains. Why am I still here if someone came in to save me then? The sound of Leo's voice has me snapping my eyes open again. While it isn't quite as heartening as Kudzu barging in with a weapon, it's definitely relieving to hear his voice again. I'm dragged through another doorway into a brightly lit room, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. As I come to a stop on the cement floor, the room goes quiet and I squint against the sudden light. The walls on all sides are covered in shelves that are filled with silver tins and soup cans. A storage room of some kind. Duke is standing in the middle of the room next to a metal chair, staring at me. And that chair is Leo. His arms are down at his sides, and I can see that they're both handcuffed to the sides of the chair. His feet are similarly strapped to the chair's legs. His face is one of shock as he also stares at me, open-mouthed. I stare back, even feeling weirdly self-conscious as everyone watches me. Duke breaks the silence. I knew it! Duke is snarling, but it's not at me. Instead, he's looking at Brian, his lips drawn back as he growls. This is what the fuck happens! Brian scratches his head. What happens? Duke kicks at the air with a foot before stamping down on the hard cement that makes up the floor of the room. This! Leo wasn't supposed to know he got away! Well, I caught him, so what's the difference? Duke lunges at Brian, swinging his arms a few times to beat his fists uselessly against the bear's bulk. Brian flinches back anyway, letting go of my foot. Leo's still staring down at me, mouth slightly less open, and I have no idea what's going on in his mind right now. I suddenly realize how stupid I was to come here with Kudzu. Sure, saving Leo as soon as possible was important, but why had I thought we could have done it alone? I should be in my car right now, halfway to Peyton, 20 minutes away from the cops. Instead, I'm in Duke's basement, about to be murdered. I slowly sit up just as Duke seems to finish his beating of Brian. Gasping, he turns to me. Fuck. Well, if you're here, I guess we'll just have to make use of you. He waves his hand loosely between me and Brian. Pick him up. Wait a second, just... Shut up. Brian picks me up roughly, almost encircling my chest with his hands alone as he pins my arms to my sides. He holds me in front of Leo, and Duke stands to the side, between us. It's only now that I notice the puffiness in Leo's left eye, some crusted blood near his brow with some more coming from his lower lip. It's not terrible, but it's clear he's been hit a few times. As I watch him, I can see the fear in his eyes reflected back at me. That alone almost scares me more than the situation we're in. Ah, not smirking anymore, are you? Duke bares his teeth in Leo's direction. Been trying to wipe it off your face this whole time, and turns out this was all I needed to do it. Duke gestures at me. You're a little fuck otter, huh? Leo closes his eyes and shakes his head. Why are you here? He mumbles it, almost to himself. Duke leans closer to the wolf. Why didn't you run if you got away? Leo opens his eyes and he's looking straight at me. I don't know if he expects me to answer, but the look of defeat on his face makes me feel like I have to. We wanted to save you. We didn't know where you were or what was happening. Duke suddenly leans away from Leo towards me, his eyes narrowed. We? Who's we? I feel my stomach drop as I realize what I've just done. I mean all of us. I saw some of my friends out there before I came here, but I'm alone. Duke studies me closely. Was there anyone else up there, Brian? Brian is sulking behind me, letting go of my shoulder occasionally to rub at his chin. Didn't see nobody except this otter. Duke looks up at the ceiling, like he's listening for footsteps or something. Duke. Duke snaps his attention back to Leo, and I notice his face is practically dancing with twitches and tics. This is crazy. Leo enunciates each word through gritted teeth. His muzzle lowered so that he's looking up at Duke eye to eye, Look at this. Look at everything you've done. It makes no sense. Duke lets out a high-pitched laugh. Crazy? You know what's crazy? Duke gestures at me again. Ask him what he saw out there. Duke turns to face me, swinging his hand from me to Leo. Go on, tell him. He doesn't believe me. The corner of Duke's eye seems to have a mind of its own, like there's some kind of living creature under the surface, writhing around. Was it a little crazy? I stare at Duke, entranced, until Brian gives me a quick jerk. I saw a body. There were gunshots. Duke giggles. And that ain't the half of it. Houses on fire, people eating each other. You think I'm crazy for shooting Janice, but if you knew... But how the hell are we supposed to know why that is? Leo leans forward as far as his bonds let him, eyes wide, almost pleading with Duke. This started when you got here. Duke lowers his voice dangerously, leaning back towards Leo, their noses almost touching. That doesn't mean shit. Leo speaks haltingly back at the weasel. Does this? Duke suddenly pulls the gun from the waistband of his pants and points it straight at my face. I'm barely able to comprehend it before Brian jumps to the side with me, out of the way of the gun. Fucking Christ, Duke, don't point it at me! Leo almost stands up on his toes with the chair still attached to his body, fur bristled out all over his body. Duke's lowered the gun though, still watching Leo. Leo slumps back in the chair, trembling. Just stop, Duke! I don't know anything! Leo stares for a moment at the wolf. Jesus, again. Duke stares for a moment at the wolf, frowning. Then he looks down at his gun, as if contemplating something. Slowly, he looks at me, then points the gun at Leo's head. My heart jumps into my throat and Brian has to hold on to me as I try to hold out my hands. Wait, what are you doing? Maybe it is just you, Otter. What? It's you I was seeing before you got here, and it was you I saw sneaking around at night. What the hell are you talking about? I feel myself start to panic as I see Duke's finger tighten up around the trigger. I don't know what's happening! Leo's doing his best to keep his head out of the line of fire, leaning his head as far to the side as he can. Duke doesn't seem to be paying attention to him though, instead keeping his eyes on me. Just explain to me why you think it's me. Maybe I can help! That seems to get some sort of reaction out of Duke as he lowers the gun just a bit. The problem now though is that it's pointed at Leo's chest and there's no way he can dodge that. Duke is studying me closely as if trying to figure out what to say. You know this has happened before. My mind races. The mass hysteria thing? Like 100 years ago? Yeah, that's right. See, how do you know that? He looks closely at me, but I'm relieved as he finally takes the gun away from Leo to be pointed at the ground. I did some research before coming here. I'm doing a news story on Echo, for school. Duke is still eyeing me suspiciously. So you know about the murder? I try to think back to my research, about what exactly happened. It was a while ago now, and I'd planned to fill in the gaps when I got back to Pueblo. Kind of. It happened in the mine. Yeah, it did. And then people went nuts. I wait, but Duke doesn't go on, filling the air with awkward silence. I can see Leo's head looking back and forth, probably trying to come up with a way to get out of this. I hope he's figuring something out, because I have no idea how we're going to do that. But, do you know why? I'm trying to sift through Duke's psyche, to figure out why he thinks this might be related to Leo and I. Duke's breathing has leveled off, and with his calmness there's a feeling that we've managed to ride out the storm. My grandpappy lived through it all and stayed in the town after. Oh? I notice Leo's not looking around anymore. Instead, his eyes are trained on the door behind me and slightly to my right. I want to look back, but Duke seems distracted right now, so I try to keep him engaged. Yeah, it happened weeks after the body was found. Sort of built up till all hell broke loose. Leo nods his head slightly, eyes still on the door, and my heart leaps in my chest as I realize what might be happening. Do you know why that was? Duke shakes his head. There's something bad in this town. The earth's bad, the air's bad, everything's tainted. So, you think something's in the air or water or something? I lean a bit to the left to try to keep Duke's eyes on me, away from Leo or the door. I don't know about that, but my grandpapa thought that because they didn't catch the murderer. It planted some seeds in the bad dirt. Duke looks at the ceiling. It grew something terrible. It wasn't until they killed the guy that did it that it stopped. That's news to me. I didn't read anywhere that the murderer had been caught. Duke looks back down at me. So I don't know what it is, if it's murder, or guilt, or not catching someone that did wrong. I hear the softest sound of a footpad against the door behind me and pray that none of the others did. But it started when you got here, so you gotta forgive me for wondering if one of you did something bad. Duke starts to raise the gun again, and brought that guilt back to this poisoned land to grow the seeds again. Duke doesn't sound like himself at all, not even his recently crazed self. Still, though I don't want to admit it, I start to have an idea of what Duke might be getting at. How this all fits into our history. What was that kid's name a while back? The dad in the lake? He wasn't murdered. You sure about that? Yes! But I'm not, am I? I swallow hard, aware that some of the pieces don't fit, despite how disturbing the implications are. But that was years ago. Why didn't it start then? Why now? Duke shrugs. Maybe you wasn't guilty till now. Maybe kids don't understand what they've done. Maybe it's because you left and it made it angry. But he wasn't murdered. You see it happen? No. But the person that did wouldn't ever do that. So am I talking to the wrong guy right now? Who was it? I look over at Leo again, swallowing hard. Who was it? Duke starts to raise the gun again, and what happens over the course of the next minute is too fast for me to comprehend until it's over. Whoop. Didn't mean to hit my mic just then. Leo explodes out from his sitting position, face twisted with rage as he bares his teeth in a full-on wolf snarl. Though his feet are handcuffed to the legs of the chair, he's still able to lunge off the ground with his feet. He launches himself at Duke, slamming into the weasel with a painful crunch of flesh on flesh and metal on concrete. I gasp and watch as Leo starts ripping into Duke with his teeth. Duke screams and flails his arms around, apparently forgetting his weapon as it flies from his fingers. The gun slides across the ground to tap gently against the wall, just 5 feet from me. Brian keeps a tight grip on me though, but that's when I hear a clicking sound behind me. Brian does too, and he turns sideways, allowing me to see the source as well. And there stands Kudzu, both hands on Leo's handgun as he points it up at Brian's head. It clicks uselessly, though, and Kudzu's face is a mixed mask of terror, desperation, and confusion. The safety! Leo is still struggling on the ground with a screaming Duke, lifting his mouth from the weasel's arm to shout at Kudzu. Kudzu's eyes snap to the gun in his hand, but Brian's already moving. He kicks at Kudzu's hand and it connects violently, sending the gun flying into the air to clap against the ceiling. Brian lets go of me at that point, reaching out to catch the gun. Because no one's fighting over Duke's gun, I realize that might be my best chance. I lunge in the opposite direction. Clumsily, I scoop up the weasel's gun, turning it over in my hands until I'm holding it the right way. Brian! Brian! My gun! Leo is still tearing away at the weasel's arms as Duke holds them up in defense. I turn around, crouch back against the wall as I see Brian standing over a downed Kudzu. I can only pray that he hasn't killed him. I point the gun at Brian just as he turns around to face me. Seeing that he's about to get shot, the bear lunges at me, his massive paws up stretching out towards me. Luckily for me, the gun is loaded. Trying to keep myself steady, I manage to find the safety and flick it off. I shoot him right in the face. The sound is so loud in the tiny room that my hearing goes out for a moment. Brian crumples to the floor and the room goes quiet. But only for a moment. An earthly howling sound comes from the bear as he slowly props himself up on his hands, looking back up at me. For a moment I wonder if the evil powers of Echo have brought him back to life somehow. But no, there's a bloody hole just above his blunt nose and I can see the white of bone peeking through the red. Somehow the bullet hadn't even pierced his skull. Shakily, I raise the gun again, but Brian rolls away to the door, and with speed that shouldn't be possible for a bear his size, he's gone. I stare for a moment, wondering if I should run after him, but a snarl next to me has me pointing the gun at Duke instead. Leo's still tearing into his arms as Duke hollers at the top of his lungs, trying to cover his face. Leo, stop! I've got the gun on him! Leo looks up at me with his wild eyes, pausing for a moment before slowly letting go of the mustelid's arms, bloody drool hanging from his chin. I try to ignore that and keep the gun trained on Duke's head as Leo flops to the side in his chair. After seeing how little the bullet had affected Brian, I'm not so confident that it will do much damage to Duke. Maybe bears just have thicker skulls, but I'm more worried that the gun is just shit. Duke doesn't move though, as he lays back against the concrete, eyes closed, gasping for breath. His arms are at his sides, both of them leaking blood onto the ground. Leo really did a number on them. He definitely needs to go to the hospital. A hand touches my shoulder and I jump. I look back and see that it's Kudzu. Sorry, you okay? Leo's gun hangs loosely from one of his hands. Kudzu, you fucking saved our lives! I grin at him as I almost sob with relief. I want to hug him, but I have to keep the gun on Duke. Of course. I'm sorry I didn't stop him when he took you. I wasn't sure what to do. He touches my shoulder again and I can feel him trembling. Don't worry about it. We're okay now. Can someone get me out of these handcuffs, please? My arms are fucking killing me. Killing you? You ripped mine apart! Duke is practically sobbing now, curling up on his side to hold his arms to his chest. Fuck you, asshole! Leo spits at him as he tries to adjust his position on the floor. Where are the keys, Duke? Duke takes in a shuddering breath and holds it for a few seconds before answering. Rat pocket. Kudzu walks over and kneels next to the weasel, sifting through his pocket. Keep an eye on the door, Chase, in case Blubbergut comes back. I try to angle myself so I can keep an eye on both the door and Duke, even though I'm pretty sure the latter is through at this point. Excuse me? Kudzu pulls the small metal key out before moving over to Leo, fumbling around for a good while before the handcuffs finally drop to the ground. Leo kneels there for a moment, wringing out his wrists. You okay? He smiles at me. I'm a little sore, but I think I'll be alright. He gets unsteadily to his feet, taking a pair of handcuffs up with him before bending quickly to give me a kiss on the head. I'm so happy you're okay, Chase. And thank you, Kudzu. He slaps the raccoon on the back before turning his attention to the weasel. Duke notices and quickly curls up tighter. I was just trying to help everyone. Ah! Leo grabs him by his bloodied arms before yanking him violently to his feet. The weasel screams double as the wolf twists those arms behind his back, handcuffing them. Why the hell do you have so many handcuffs anyway? Duke starts sobbing again until Leo whips him around and slaps him across the face. Duke sways, stunned by the power of the blow, before Leo brings the hand back and hits him on the other cheek. Shut the fuck up! Leo ignores Kudzu as he pulls the chair back up and throws Duke into it so violently it almost tips over. Please! I'm sorry, I just want to help! Duke cowers as Leo raises his hand again. I realize how tightly I'm holding onto the gun, and though I'm pointing it at the ground now, I'm sure to take my finger off the trigger. While Leo's violence is a little disturbing, it's almost comforting to have him throw his weight around after how the weasel had threatened us. Kudzu, on the other hand, doesn't look comforted at all. He's still trembling from the earlier fight, and he's pulling at the fur on his chin as he watches Leo. Careful, Leo. Let's just take him into the cops or something. Kudzu looks over his shoulder at the door. Going to Peyton was probably a better idea, now that I realize how messed up everyone is. Yeah. I mean, if that monster they're all talking about isn't real, would have been better to risk that than get involved with these idiots. I hadn't even thought about the supposed thing keeping everyone from leaving the town. It seems silly now that we'd let a stupid story like that keep us here. Leo doesn't seem to be listening. You're a fucking lunatic, Duke. Why shouldn't I just kill you right now? Leo? Leo looks over his shoulder at us, finally, shaking his head at Kudzu conspiratorially. Kudzu goes silent as Leo goes back to staring down at the weasel. Now explain to us what the hell is going on. Leo leans in closer with his bloody muzzle and Duke cringes back. Tell the truth and maybe I'll let you go. Leo glances at me. I won't kill you, at least. He's trying to make it clear to me that he's just trying to scare Duke. At least that's what I hope he's doing. I already explained! Duke's eyes dart back and forth between us. The way he's kicking his feet around with a high-pitched, whiny voice makes me think of a child. The really ugly, malnourished child. I still feel a little bad for him, though. Remind me, because I was a little fucking distracted. Kudzu sidles up next to me and sets his hand on my shoulder. You want to watch the door? I touch hand in acknowledgement and turn around to face the door. I don't really think Brian's going to be coming back, though. I told yous. Something bad's happening and we need to figure out what. Yeah, but how did kidnapping us help anything? Duke sighs deeply and I glance over my shoulder to see him slumping in defeat. Last time this happened, it might have been caused by a murder. Not the murder, but that the guy got away with murder. There's a moment of silence. Okay. Leo's tone demands that Luke go on. Duke. Sorry. So, the guilt from the guy, or the worry in the town, or just spirits, heck, I don't know. Maybe all of that. But it came together to make everything go crazy. Okay, sure. But how does this have anything to do with us? I saw the otter sneaking around town before you says they got here. I look back again and see Duke looking at me. So was Leo. It seemed kind of fishy to me, so I thought he might have something to do with it all. Was my only lead. Leo doesn't respond this time. I look back again and see that he's still looking at me. What is it? You told me yourself, Leo, that you saw him sneaking around too. It was someone else. How the hell do you know that? What are you guys talking about? Kudzu, can you watch the door? I finally turn around. Leo leans one hand on the back of Duke's chair as he sighs. If you remember, Chase, I told you about how I thought I saw someone out my window that looked like you. Leo turns his glare back onto Duke. Got drunk with this asshole and accidentally told him about it too. But we both saw it! Isn't that a little bit strange? Some otter came by the town that looked like Chase. What the hell else was it? Leo glances back at me and I feel like there's some doubt in his eyes. I mean, you weren't here, right? Of course I wasn't. I know. Just making sure. Leo turns back to Duke. Why would that mean anything, anyway? Duke looks around, visibly clenching his toes. I've heard stuff about doubles, like doppelgangers or something. Doppelgangers? Sure, but people talked about that shit happening back then, seeing themselves and stuff. Okay, so if we believe that shit, why would it mean he has anything to do with anything? Well, my grandpapa said that the guy that did it was in 2 or 3 places at once sometimes. There's a moment of silence as we all absorb that bit of information. Sounds like a load of shit to me, Duke. Duke jumps up in his seat. I'm just telling you what I know! So what's your solution to all of this, then? I don't know. It stopped when they got the guy. Duke cowers in the chair, then glances at me. Leo follows his gaze and his eyes turn steely. Duke seems to notice Leo's sudden change in demeanor, but before he can do anything, he gets a massive slap from the wolf. Leo, stop it! Duke immediately starts sobbing again and curls in on himself. Me? This fucker wants to get at Chase! It did seem that way. Did Duke think the only way to stop all the problems in this town was to kill me? Duke. Kudzu tries a different approach, his voice much gentler than Leo's. The problem with your theory is that Chase hasn't killed anyone, right, Chase? Of course not. Of course not. So maybe we need to rethink things a little, huh? Or maybe he can do that in a fucking jail cell. We're going back to get my van, then we're gonna get the hell out of here. If we can. I'm still not sure about that thing the mayor was talking about. What thing? A monster or something? The mayor told us it's killing people that are trying to leave. Leo stares. Has the town really gone that fucking insane? Kudzu shrugs. There were bodies. Jesus. Leo looks around. Well, it still sounds like bullshit, but if there is anything, we'll be fine if we leave in a car. The motel is closer. We can use my car instead. Sure. Duke is still staring at me with a hard look. I get the feeling that, despite all the things we just told him, he's not buying it. Leo hauls the weasel off the chair, gaining a little squeak of pain from Duke as he's forced to break eye contact with me. What about the others? We're going to try to find everyone we can before we leave, but the priority is to get ourselves to a police station. Leo pulls me to stand in front of him before gesturing at Kudzu. Kud, take the gun. Safety's off now. Kudzu visibly frowns as I hand it to him. Yeah, sorry about that. I want Chase between us. I don't trust these fuckers to not try anything, especially if Brian comes back. So, with Kudzu leading the way, we make our way out of Brian's house and into the night. It's quieter this time around as we head out onto the deserted night street. Seems like things have settled a little at least. Kudzu's fur is still bristled out on the back of his neck. I'm starting to worry about him. He's been tense, even considering the situation we're in. Keep your eyes peeled anyway. Of course. I've also been sensing a strange sort of tension between the two of them. It can probably be put up to the situation currently at hand, though. We're all on edge. I can see the motel a ways down the road, but ominously, the lights are all out. Duke has gone quiet for the most part. I wonder if he's just given up, or if he's planning something. Hopefully it's the former. I'm not really seeing anything out of the ordinary here. Trust me, things are fucked up. We pass the diner, the moonlight glinting softly off its metal edges. A dark, sick feeling sets in as I stare at the black windows. That's where it all started. Should we check to see if she's still there? Leo's quiet behind me for a moment, then clears his throat. Don't see why we'd need to do that. I don't know, to tell the cops about it or something. If the cops haven't been there, then I'm sure she's still in there. No use looking inside. Alright. Hey, it's gonna be okay, alright? Not for Janice. Leo doesn't say anything to that as we continue down the road, finally reaching the motel parking lot. Keep moving. I look behind me and see the Duke stopped, still looking back at the diner. I see something. What? Kudzu stops too and looks back at us. Something. I look at the diner, but I see nothing moving in the windows or in front of it. It's way too dark to see anything in there anyway. Leo prods at Duke's back, but the weasel refuses to move, rooted to the spot. Am I gonna have to carry you? Excuse me 1 second. Leo lets go of Duke for just a moment, reaching up to turn him around, probably to throw the weasel over his shoulder. But before he can do that, Duke screams, long and loud, and it raises all the hairs on the back of my neck. Before Leo can stop him, the weasel takes off into the night, away from the diner, toward a grouping of trees and bushes on the side of the road. Leo curses and immediately goes after him. Kudzu starts to follow. "Don't follow me! Wait by the car!" Leo shouts over his shoulder before disappearing into the brush. Then, more faintly, "And watch Chase!" Kudzu and I stare into the darkness, listening to the two of them crash through the brush before fading out into silence. After a few moments, Kudzu rubs his head and turns to me. "Well, guess we should get to the car then." I frown, not really worried that Duke can do much to Leo, but rather that they'll run into someone that could. It shouldn't be that hard to catch him. He's in handcuffs. Duke can be fast when he wants to be. Fuck. I feel like we should have gone with him. I keep staring into the darkness of the brush, and Kudzu puts a hand on my shoulder as he passes. "Don't worry, Leo can take care of himself, especially when he's up against someone like Duke. A handcuffed Duke." "Yeah." Reluctantly, I follow the raccoon. Leo's brief presence had been so strong and reassuring, it's kind of jarring to be without it again. At the same time, though, it's not all that different with Kudzu. Leo's just more overpowering with it, I guess. I fish my keys out of my pocket, then suddenly realize where we're at. "Hey, we should check our room. Jenna or TJ might be in there, maybe even some of the others." Kudzu looks at the dark motel, scanning the rows of doors. "Yeah, we should, but I think we should wait for Leo. I don't really trust anyone right now." I realize he's implying that one of my friends could have gone insane too, and I also realize I can't blame him. From what I saw and what I've heard, TJ might be acting the same way as Duke. That thought causes my stomach to churn sickly. "Listen, I gotta, pee real quick, okay?" "Okay." "I'm just gonna go over behind that corner." He points over to the side of the motel. "No problem." I'm getting just a little annoyed that everyone is acting like I'm a little kid that needs to be watched. "Cool, be right back." Kudzu does a little jog away before disappearing around the corner. I lean back against the door of the car, swinging the keys around a finger. It's completely quiet now, and I haven't heard a single gunshot since we got outside. I wonder if everyone that's been fighting is dead now. Or maybe they just realized how ridiculous the mayor's story was and left. Thinking about the supposed monster that I definitely don't believe in, though, has me looking over my shoulder into the darkness. Images of a hanging body crosses my mind. Shit. I look over to where Kudzu went. It's been a little while. Shouldn't he be done by now? A pop from the brush across the street makes me jump. "Leo?" My voice comes out in a whisper. There's definitely something there. Its form stands out just a shade darker than the trees behind it. It might be a bush, but it looks thin, like a person. I squint at it, and that's when I see the glint of two eyes in the darkness. I freeze. Whoever it is, they're not responding to me, and that's definitely not a good sign. I decide that I'm just not going to move until Kudzu gets here. Yeah, and if it does move, I'll just run over to where Kudzu went. I don't think he'll mind me catching him with his pants down if there's a fucking psychopath chasing after us. I see a thick tail swish out to the side of the dark thing. Slowly, I feel behind myself for the keyhole to the car door, sliding the key in and unlocking it. Actually, I'll just get in the car and... Footsteps to my right. Duke, his eyes wild, is on me in an instant. He slams into me so hard that I'm sent to the asphalt with an impact that rattles my brain. I roll over groggily and see Duke bent over, his hands fumbling at the ground. Somehow, he's moved his handcuffed hands from behind himself to the front. I realize that I don't have my keys anymore at the same time that Duke stands up, keys in hand. "Kudzu!" I yell and reach for Duke, who dodges away, throwing some kicks at me before yanking open my car door. Fuck! I lunge for the handle, but I see the weasel slam down the lock just as I reach it. Kudzu comes running around the corner just as Duke starts up the car. Duke! I shout uselessly at Kudzu as Duke peels out, yanking the handle from my grasp and forcing me to hop back a step to stop from being run over. Of course, I think that Duke's just going to take off down the road and get the hell out of Echo. I have no idea that he's going to turn sharply in the parking lot and come straight for me. Chase! Kudzu screams at me, just 20 feet away now. But there's no time. The car is coming at me. I jump to the left, but Duke easily follows my movement. I see the license plate and the headlights, which Duke hasn't turned on. I jump and land on the hood of the car as it hits me. I feel like my body is falling through the air. I see the stars and the moon. Then I land. The desert stretches and winds into the distance, rising and falling with the mountains, hills, and valleys. It's endless, monolithic, passionless. Except here. Its mark is clear on the land, like a stain, a blemish in the beige patchwork of the wilderness. The earth's bad, the air is bad, everything's tainted. Tainted. The mark is old. It's ancient. Been here longer than people. All people. And they knew it too. Everyone who's been here knows it. So do you, even though you're not from here. You were drawn to the stain, like all the other evil that's planted itself here. You can see it right through the otter's eyes. You see its influence stretch above you like black tendrils into a dark red sky. They stretch, search, reach for anything alive, to stain anything they touch. So it is. So it will always be. Chase! I stare groggily up at the face above me. A swirling mess of gray and black before I'm able to focus on the nose just inches away from my own. That crosses my eyes, which hurts, so I close them again. Chase! The voice is gentler this time, though no less concerned. I try to reach my hand up to assure whoever it is that I'm fine. I feel the soft, velvety sensation of an ear catch between my fingers, and the person above me stills. What happened? Are you guys okay? I mumble thickly past lips that don't seem to cooperate, with words that don't seem to make sense. Are you? He hit you really hard. I feel a hand run over the top of my head, like it's looking for something. Did you hit your head? I feel my own head, keeping my other hand resting on Kudzu's head. That's right, Kudzu. I push myself up suddenly, realizing where I am and what just happened. I look around into the night, the surreal feeling of regaining consciousness in this nightmare making it all the more horrific. Shit. Where is he? I try to push myself up, but Kudzu holds me down firmly. Duke? He took off, somewhere? Kudzu looks around, his ears pointed up as if listening, before looking back down at me as I try to sit up again. Excuse me? You need to stay down for now. Something might be injured. I think I'm okay. Just a little bit out of it. Kudzu gazes down at me, and for a moment I'm left staring into his deep, dark eyes. That's when the sound of feet slapping against asphalt breaks the spell, and Kudzu looks behind himself. What the hell? Duke just... Ah! Kudzu is suddenly shoved roughly away, and I find myself held up in Leo's arms. What the fuck happened? Leo desperately looks me up and down as he holds me in his arms. Did he shoot you? What? No, he just hit me with a car. I see Leo's eyes widen and his ears shoot up. He suddenly turns his attention on Kudzu, hackles raised. What the fuck were you doing, Kud? Why weren't you watching him? Kudzu flinches back, then glares. He came out of nowhere, Leo. We were both trying to stop him. I could see Leo working himself up to shout something else, but that's when I push myself out of his strong grip. Despite the circumstances, I'm bristling at the way I'm being coddled. Leo! He was driving a fucking car. There wasn't anything he could do. Now standing, I feel an achy sensation in my back and my head spins a little. I brace my hands on my knees and wait for it to subside. I don't think you should be standing up so soon. I'm fine. Though, now that I'm standing, I'm not completely sure of that. Worrying twinges and creaks pang throughout my body, but I force myself to straighten up, facing the other two. We need to keep moving. Find the others and get out of here. Leo moves up next to me, a big paw reaching out to wrap around my shoulder. I cringe, though, and Leo takes his hand back. You need me to carry you, honey? I grimace and shake my head, mostly because I feel like being slung over his back would be even worse. He settles on rubbing my back gently, eyes still looking me over, as if trying to spot some unseen injury. Let's get the hell to Peyton. Kudzu coughs awkwardly. We've lost the car, though. Oh yeah. My heart sinks. Even now, in the situation we're in, I'm a little angry that it was my car that was stolen. I worked hard to buy that thing, even if it was a junker. Leo shakes his head like it's a mild annoyance. Then we'll just have to use my van instead. Leo looks up the road, in the direction of the diner where he left it 2 days ago. Wait, let's at least check the motel, see if any of the others are in our room. Otter, I'm sure the others have already gotten out by now. I mean, we haven't heard anything from any of them, though. And wouldn't they have brought the police or something? Leo looks back at the motel, chewing his lip. Alright, but let's be fucking quick about it. We need to get the hell out of here so we can get everyone help. Yeah, real quick. I reach into my back pocket, pulling out the keycard as I hobble in the direction of our room on the other side of the building. Kudzu reaches out to me. You need help. Leo shoulders the raccoon aside as he practically jumps to my side, gently pressing a hand into my back again. Stay close, Otter. I'm not gonna let something like that happen to you again. I try to ignore the tension I feel building between the other two. More than anything, I'm annoyed at Leo. Why is he acting like this? Sure, he was always a little jealous, but right now, in the middle of this hellscape of chaos? I shake my head, allowing the wolf to guide me with his hand as we turn the corner to the motel. Kudzu stays close behind us, and I look back at him and give him a small smile to show that I at least appreciated his concern for me. He gives me a short nod back, but otherwise doesn't say anything. Like most of the town, the back of the motel is completely deserted as far as I can see. Another pop that's probably a gunshot echoes in the distance, but I'm just thankful they aren't happening every minute like earlier. Again, I wonder if it's because everyone's dead. As fucked up as it is, I think that might be a good thing for us. As long as it doesn't involve any of my friends. We reach the door of the motel and my heart sinks again as I see there's no light coming from the window. Shakily, I raise the keycard to press it against the lock, only to accidentally drop it. I start to bend over to pick it up, but Leo puts a hand on my shoulder, speaking gently into my ear. Don't move, Otter. He sweeps up the card and presses it to the lock. It flashes green, then I hear the electric buzz of the lock coming unlatched, before Leo presses down on the door handle, then pauses. His other hand suddenly reaches out behind me toward Kudzu. Kudzu, hand me my gun. I'll give you dukes. Kudzu stares at the hand for a moment, then jumps, as if suddenly realizing what the wolf is talking about. Oh, right. Kudzu lifts his shirt, fumbling with the waistband before pulling out the gun. He hands it to Leo, who in turn hands him Duke's gun. He checks the safety on his own before pointing it towards the door. Leo pauses again, then glances at me. Otter, behind me. Leo nods back to the wall next to the door. I only feel a little twinge of resentment at being treated like a child again, but I'm too eager to check the room to say anything. Finally, Leo gives the door a gentle shove, allowing it to swing open on its own. I can't see anything from behind Leo, but judging by the look on Kudzu's face next to me, they don't see anything. I realize why as Leo slowly reaches inside and flips the light switch. I can't resist and peek around Leo's bulk into the motel room, excuse me. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe a blood-splattered room with all of our friends' bodies piled up in the middle or something. Instead, though, it's basically just how I remember it. I even see my pajamas crumpled up on my side of the bed where I left them. One more time. Finally, he leans in, whispering loudly. Hello? There's no response. Leo waits just a while longer before finally moving forward slowly. I don't wait for Leo's approval to follow and move closely behind him, Kudzu just behind me. There isn't much to search in the motel room, having just the room and the bathroom to check. Once Leo's sure it's clear, I shut the door and lock it before turning to the other two. Just so that we know that we're safe. For now, at least. Leo shakes his head. We gotta keep moving, Chase. We should head to my place now. I open Jenna's laptop on the table, pushing the power button. Come on, what are you doing? Leo shifts his weight from one foot to the other. Kudzu moves to stand next to me. Checking the internet? I was hoping to. I sigh as I stare at a password screen. Well, let me check with my phone. Leo sighs again. That's not gonna help us. I have Wi-Fi calling. Leo sighs again and sits heavily on the bed, bending it in like a bow. He sits his gun on the bedside table before rubbing his face vigorously with both hands. One more time, excuse me. You okay? Saying that Leo's been on edge is an understatement. And sure, we're all fucked up right now, but the way the wolf's been acting, it's like he's a different person. Leo lets his hands slide down his face so he can peer at me over his fingertips. He examines me for a while, then finally reaches out with both hands. Come here, Chula. I almost hesitate, and I'm not sure why. I walk over to him and stand in front of the wolf, before he reaches out and pulls me down into his lap. Then he presses my head against his chest before wrapping his arms around me. He starts stroking the back of my neck gently, and it makes me shiver. That all feels a little forced, and we don't meld together naturally like we always used to. I'm sorry about letting all of this happen. I should have told the police when Duke started threatening you earlier. Do you know what's happening? Leo takes in another breath, and his broad chest swells against my cheek before he blows it out, ruffling the fur on my head. I don't know. I really don't. I notice Kudzu standing to the side, clearly trying not to look at us. And the internet? Kudzu looks up and shakes his head. No, I can't find a network. Damn it. Did that bear do anything to you? The hesitation in Leo's voice makes it clear what he's really asking, and it sounds like he's been wanting to ask it for a while. No. He, just tied me up for a while. I guess technically he did do more, in a way. But I don't want to go into that right now. That whole incident actually seems like a long time ago already. Janice's murder, getting near raped by Brian, trying to kill Brian. I feel like there's a numbness in my chest that's dampening my emotions right now, and everything feels like it's far away from me. I wonder if that's some kind of psychological response to what's happening, and if I'll be all fucked up after this is over. Probably. But I kinda welcome the numbness right now. It at least helps me deal with what's happening a little easier. Jenna would probably be able to tell me what's happening right now, if she were here. Of course, that makes me wonder where she and the others are. It makes me want to get out there and find them. Because as much as I want to get the hell out of this place, I feel kind of responsible for them. I did drag all of them here, after all. I'm gonna get you out of here, I promise. Leo breathes into my ear and squeezes me a little tighter. I have to hold back a wince as a twinge goes through my back. I have a feeling that I'm going to be very sore tomorrow. I suddenly lift my head to look back at Kudzu. What time is it? Kudzu takes his phone back out of his pocket to check. 3:45. I stare at him. Are you serious? That means it's only been a little more than an hour since we left Kudzu's place. I was hoping that daylight would be a bit closer than that. Kudzu slumps down in the chair at the table. That's what my phone says. I continue to rest my head against Leo's chest, listening to him breathe. I glance up at him and see that his eyes are closed as he continues to stroke the back of my head. I'm about to tell him that we should get moving again when I think I hear something. It's a soft snuffling sound, like someone's covering up their sniffing. I lay there against Leo, not moving as I continue to listen. A full 10 seconds go by before it happens again, and this time I think it's coming from below us, under the bed. I look up at Leo again, wondering how to tell him I heard something without saying it out loud. Honestly, with his massive wolf ears, he should have heard it before I did. I reach up and poke at his chin. Leo shakes his head a bit around the poking, but otherwise doesn't open his eyes. I frown and reach up further, touching his cheek. He leans into it. Leo! I barely whisper at him. Finally, he does open his eyes, and I point at my own ears, mouthing, "Listen." I see his ears comically perk up, his eyes looking at the ceiling. I motion down at the bed. I can see Kudzu to the side from his chair, eyeing us curiously, but not saying anything otherwise, thankfully. This time, the snuffling sound is quite a bit louder, and I feel Leo's fur rise up on his arms. That was definitely a person, or something living and breathing at least, and it definitely came from under the bed. Leo slowly and gently pushes me off his lap, motioning me away. Slowly, he leans over and grabs up the gun. Then he stands, backing up away from the bed, then crouching slowly with the gun pointed as he looks under the bed. I see Leo pause, staring. Then he reaches out and grabs whatever it is and yanks hard. The scream is loud and piercing, whatever it was sounding like a terrified child. It thrashes and kicks at Leo, and it's when it's clawing frantically at the carpet to get back under the bed that I realize who it is. TJ? I shout his name, confused and terrified myself. What the hell? Calm down! Leo's got both his hands on TJ's ankles, trying to keep him still while at the same time not getting gauged by the toe claws. Gouged, not gauged. I move closer, though not close enough to get clawed by the lynx, and try to crouch in his line of sight. TJ! TJ, it's us! You're okay! The look in his eyes is wild and desperate and feral. I reach out for his wrist and he immediately slashes at me with his other hand. Chase, stay back! I fall back on my butt and scoot away a little, wide-eyed. I've never seen TJ like this. Of course I haven't. I can't imagine what could have made him like this. I scramble up and stand next to Kudzu, who's just as wide-eyed as me. Despite that, he sidesteps a little in front of me, as if to shield me from the insane TJ. Leo finally drops the cat's legs, and before TJ can scramble back under the bed, Leo jumps on his back. I wince as I'm sure I can hear TJ deflate like a tire from Leo's weight. The wolf snatches up TJ's arms, pinning them against his back as he leans over the lynx, shouting into his ear. TJ, stop! Stop fighting, it's me, Leo! Leo! TJ continues to writhe, making weird yowling noises that I've never heard him make before. TJ, it's me. It's your friends. We're here to help you, man. Leo's voice is quieter now, more soothing as he tries to calm the crazed lynx. It seems to be working so far, as TJ's violent thrashing lessens, his yowling fading out to more feeble whining sounds. See? I'm here now. You're gonna be fine. Finally, TJ's head falls to the carpet, everything going limp. TJ sits on the bed, cross-legged as he rests his back against the headboard. I gave him a blanket when I saw him shivering, and he's got that draped over his shoulders, holding it tightly around himself. It hasn't stopped the shivering, though. I seem to be the only one he doesn't flinch at when we get close, so I sit next to him on the bed. Awkwardly, I put my arm around him, but he seems to take comfort in that and leans against me. The smell of sweat and piss is strong, but I don't say anything. Leo, meanwhile, sits at the end of the other bed, gently trying to get TJ to tell us what the hell happened. Was someone chasing you? Is someone here? TJ shivers against me and I pat his shoulder. He looks at me then, and as I see his fur is completely matted to his face, like he's been crying nonstop. I notice bits of dead leaves on his head too, along with some dirt. What the hell had he been doing? Leo continues to prod gently at the lynx with his questions. If you can tell us, then we might be able to stop it, or at least watch out for it before we leave. TJ looks at Leo, then opens his mouth, making a squeaking noise. He swallows loudly, then tries again. Do we have any water? It sounds like he has an extremely sore throat. I look over to the sink, but Kudzu jumps off the chair he's sitting on and makes his way to it. He grabs up one of the small plastic cups before running the faucet. TJ watches him until the raccoon brings the cup back over. TJ drops the blanket around his shoulders and reaches out eagerly for the cup. We all watch intently as he loudly swallows giant gulps of water before lowering it from his lips and gasping for air. Leo smiles encouragingly. Careful, don't drown yourself. TJ stares, then shivers again, much more violently. I grip him more tightly. Are you cold? I grab up the blanket and try to tuck it around his shoulders better. Kinda. Not really. I feel cold, but... TJ rubs at his chest. He's still trembling, and I realize he might be in shock. I don't know what to do for that. In every TV show I've seen, the person is just given a shiny blanket while they sit on the side of the road. So I just continue to rub his shoulder in circular motions, trying to be soothing. I wish Jenna were here. She'd know what to do. He leans against me again, though, so I feel like I'm doing the right thing. He holds out the cup to Kudzu again. Could I get some more, please? Sure. Kudzu takes the cup delicately from TJ, like the links might break. When Kudzu moves off to the sink again, TJ leans in toward me, whispering, That guy played soccer with us, right? Yeah. Yeah, he did. Right. TJ goes back to leaning against me and staring at the wall. While this isn't good, he does seem to be getting better. He can recognize us again, and remember stuff at least. Leo adjusts himself on the bed, clearing his throat again. Tej, if you can't remember, that's okay, but I just want to make sure no one's, coming after you. TJ blinks, then shakes his head. No, I don't think so. Leo waits, but TJ doesn't say anything more. No one? You were hiding, so... Leo clearly doesn't want to upset the Lynx, but it makes sense why he wants to know. If there's someone lurking out there, hunting TJ down, we could be in a lot of danger right now. We have to wait though, as Kudzu comes back with the cup. TJ takes a few more big gulps before looking back up at Leo. I thought I saw something. I keep seeing things. I think I need to go home. I stare hard at TJ, studying him. I don't know why, but I guess he thought we'd all be exempt from this hysteria. I knew we were all normal, at least to an extent. This whole crazy chaos seemed too foreign, too different for it to affect my friends. People I know that are grounded, normal people. That's exactly what TJ was. And now... Leo stands up and steps closer, sitting down slowly next to TJ on the opposite side of the bed. We are gonna go home, Tej. We just have to go on a walk to get to my car first. Leo reaches out and sets a hand on TJ's leg, and I'm glad to see that he doesn't flinch at all. He's really calming down. Okay. TJ suddenly opens up the blanket around himself, staring down at his clothes. I see his nose twitching, then the skin in the inside of his ears flushes. Can I take a shower? Leo pauses, clearly not having expected that. Well, we really need to get going. Don't you want to get home and take a shower there? TJ has put the blanket back over himself, trying to hide his pants. I just like to feel clean again. I feel like it might be a good thing for him to clean off. Maybe have some alone time. I give Leo a meaningful look as I lower my voice gently for TJ. Sure, man. We'll wait. TJ slowly pushes himself off the bed to stand on unsteady legs. Both of his hands not so subtly shield his crotch as he walks to the dresser. Okay, just don't leave, okay? We won't. Leo's still using his talking to a toddler voice. The wolf gives me a frustrated look, but I ignore it. And I'm gonna leave the door open, so if something happens, just yell. It's fine, and nothing's gonna happen, okay? Yeah, okay. TJ pulls out some pants from the dresser before making his way to the bathroom. He keeps glancing back at us, like we're going to disappear if he looks away too long. I try to give him a cheerful smile until he finally disappears into the bathroom. We sit around in a sort of circle in the motel room, Leo and I on the beds, Kudzu in the chair. We keep our voices low as we discuss what's going on, not wanting TJ to hear. This doesn't make sense. TJ's one of the most rational people I know. How is this affecting him? We don't know what's causing it, though. I don't know, I thought it was drugs or something. They all just took the same drug? I don't know. Or maybe they're all crazy because of drugs and something set it off. Well, TJ is religious. So? So if he believes in that, then maybe he could go further than that? I shake my head. No, that doesn't make sense. People in cults do it all the time. But he's not in a cult. It's all kind of the same thing if you think about it. Your whole family is super religious, Leo. Yeah, so I have first-hand experience with all of it. Leo chuckles, despite the situation. It makes me wonder if this is something more than what's in everyone's head if even TJ's having it happen. Kudzu taps his chin from the chair he's sitting in. What was it Duke was saying about his grandpa? Something about a curse? Leo waves his hand like he's swatting away a fly. Puchika, speaking of shit that doesn't make sense. Kudzu shrugs. I'm starting to wonder. I fold my arms and look toward the bathroom where steam is wafting from TJ's shower. Well, stop wondering. I don't want you ending up like them. I frown and glance back at the bathroom before lowering my voice. Like TJ? Leo sighs. No. One of those fuckers probably freaked him out or something. He did say he was seeing things. Leo suddenly stands up from his sitting position on the bed. You know what? We should just stop talking about this. We're leaving once he's done anyway. As if on cue, the water shuts off and the automatic dryer starts up. Right after that, TJ's meek voice pipes up from inside the bathroom. You guys still there? I call back gently, cheerfully. We're here, TJ. Leo sighs and moves to the window to look outside, pulling back the curtain just a bit. You think the others are out there right now? Your friends? Yeah, Jenna, Carl, Flynn. I don't know why I hesitated with Flynn's name. Leo silently stares out the window a while longer, the yellow light of the streetlight falling across his face momentarily. He lets it drop back into place. With any luck, they got the hell out of here when this started. Like I said, if they did, then they would have brought someone back. Really, if anyone got out, then they would have. Leo doesn't say anything, electing to lift the gun that he's had clutched in his hand this entire time to examine it. Does that mean no one's gotten out of here? There's a momentary silence. Hello? We're still here, TJ. Kudzu shifts in the chair. Well, a lot of us here have relations outside the town. Family and work in Peyton. In fact, Kudzu checks his phone again. I'm supposed to be into work in like 5 hours. Someone's gonna notice. Maybe we should wait until morning? Someone has gotta be looking for someone here by then. Leo thrusts the gun back into his waistband resolutely. Nope. Relying on other people has gotten us nowhere. We gotta help ourselves. He might have a point, Leo. Your friend looks like in pretty bad shape. Like, mentally. Then I'll carry his ass to the van. I'm leaving, and I'm not leaving any of you behind. Leo stops, and I follow his gaze to the bathroom where TJ stepped out, his fur a little damp and spiky from his shower, and a fresh change of clothes. He stands there awkwardly a moment, rubbing his arm as we all stare at him. Hey, how are you feeling? I'm fine. Things are more clear now. Leo smiles gently. Good. So you remember who we all are? TJ smiles weakly. Yeah, again, things are clear. And you guys don't have to talk to me like that. Like? Like I'm crazy. Ah, sorry. I clear my throat and try to assume a less I'm talking to you to a crazy person tone. Do you think you can make it to Leo's? We can stay here if you want. Wait for someone to find us. I ignore Leo's exasperated sigh from behind me. TJ glances at the bed. I'd like to just lay down, but... He looks back up at us, clasping his hands together. I think something is happening here. Doing something to our heads? I don't know. Leo narrows his eyes. What do you mean? TJ looks off to the side. I just saw things that shouldn't be here. This has never happened to me before, so... TJ looks down at his hands. I remember someone was chasing me, trying to grab me, and I scratched at it. TJ looks back up at us. And it was Jenna, but I was too scared. I didn't know if it was really her or not, so I ran, and she didn't follow me. TJ's starting to shiver again. What did she look like when you didn't know it was her exactly? TJ frowns, opening his mouth to say something, then closes it again. Finally, he looks at Leo, apparently deciding to ignore the question. Can we find her? I can't stop thinking about it, and I want to make sure she's okay. His voice gets a little broken, but he manages to control his tears this time. Leo grimaces. We really need to go, TJ. The faster we can get help, the faster we can help everyone here, including Jenna. The corners of TJ's mouth tug down in a frown, but he doesn't say anything. But if we see her on the way, of course we'll bring her with us, okay? TJ's still looking like he's trying not to cry, but nods quickly. Leo rolls his shoulders, keeping the gun pointed at the ground as he moves to the door. Now, everyone stay close to me. Chase, keep with TJ. Kudzu, you bring up the rear, got it? Alright. We're just gonna head up the street to the diner. Not far at all. I look up at TJ, trying to give him a reassuring smile. He's still looking at his hands, though, so I move over to him, putting an arm around his shoulder, gently guiding him to the door. The trek to the diner is practically silent compared to just a few hours ago. Aside from the nightlife, there's no screaming or shooting. The way there is fairly straightforward, straight down the main road. However, we decide to cut through backyards instead of using the road. Leo tells us it's the best way not to be seen if there are people around. TJ keeps close to me, wanting me to keep my arm around his shoulder as we move. His eyes are either squeezed shut or staring straight ahead. It's like we're moving through a haunted house, and he's too terrified to look in either direction. It does get too difficult to keep him that close, though, especially as we start to have to move through bushes and hop fences. I opt to hold his hand instead. In any other situation, I'm sure TJ would have been running for the hills in embarrassment, but he clings to me like he's never going to let go. We all move in silence through the brush. The quiet is actually almost as unnerving as the shouts and gunshots were. As we move under a few stray trees, I try to keep the memory of seeing the corpse strung up out of my head. There's no way a demon, or whatever they said it was, did that. It was one of the town crazies, killed and then mutilated that person to convince us of their delusions. There's 4 of us now, and 2 of us have guns. We're gonna be fine. We get to the diner after only about 5 minutes, though most of it is spent floundering through the brush and old, broken fences. Excuse me. Because of the meandering, we actually miss it and have to backtrack. Cautiously, we make our way around the diner to the parking lot and immediately spot the lone van. When we finally do get there, Leo jogs up to his van, shoving a hand into his pocket. But then he freezes and stares down. Fuck! Me and TJ arrive next to Leo, and TJ finally lets go of my hand. What is it? I ask, but I see the problem at the same time that I do. The 2 tires that I can see are brutally slashed and completely flat. I'd bet that the other 2 are the same way. Leo puts his hands up to his face, rubbing his eyes vigorously with his palms. Who did that? TJ reaches out and grasps my hand again. Kudzu moves over to the other side of the van to inspect it. Brian. Leo growls out the name. How do you know? Leo doesn't say anything, sitting down on his haunches as he stares at the completely destroyed wheel. Who's that? TJ asks quietly from beside me, studying my expression. I wonder if I should tell him. Probably not. Him scared of seeing things is bad enough. We don't need TJ to be worried about an actual person who's out to kill us. I'd actually completely forgotten about the bear up until this point. If it truly was him, then we're in even more danger than I'd thought. It's just another person that we saw. He was acting weird. It's alright. TJ doesn't seem to take much comfort in that, staring at the tires. Whether or not it was Brian, whoever it was had done a number on the tires, completely tearing the rear tire to shreds. Kudzu comes from around the side of the van, shaking his head. The other 2 tires are the same. How far do you think we'd get on flats? Leo lets out a ragged growl, standing back up. Not far enough. We'd probably get to the lake before the goddamn wheels fall off. Leo stands there, thinking. Should we just go back to the motel? Leo shakes his head. No, I'm not staying here another minute. I'd rather start walking, actually. To the highway? That'd take half the day. Well, we'd at least be getting somewhere instead of sitting around here. I look down Main Street, toward the darkness of the lake and desert. The ominous feeling I get is overwhelming. Like I have no doubt that if we set out into the desert, we wouldn't last long at all. I don't know why. I shudder violently and TJ glances at me. He squeezes my hand, and I find it funny how quickly the role of the one doing the reassuring is flipped. I think we should go back to the motel. Leo finally looks back at me and I see his expression soften. Hey, Otter, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna get us out of here, okay? I noticed the same tone he'd used with TJ earlier. He sets his hands on my shoulders, but I honestly don't feel very reassured. TJ pipes up from next to me. Carl's house has some cars. Maybe he's there and we could leave with him in the car? Leo looks out toward the hilltop where Carl's house is at. We can't see it, since all the lights are apparently off. Maybe. If he's not there, we could just break in. I see TJ blanch next to me. Even now, he's battling his moral values versus our need to survive. I still just want to go to the motel, hole up in there and wait. Maybe sleep. I'd give anything just to be able to lay down somewhere safe right now. But now, with the new possible factor of Brian, I can see the benefit of getting the hell out of here now. Alright. Leo sets his jaw, narrowing his eyes. Let's go. Remember to stay close. We don't bother going off-road on the way to Carl's place, mainly because we'd just be trudging through sagebrush full of ticks at that point. Leo figures that since Carl's house is the only thing up this road, aside from through the canyon to nowhere, no one would be driving there anyway. Excuse me. It takes us about 20 minutes to get there, walking in silence up the cracked road. The only sounds are panting. I'm the loudest, considering my short legs, and also that I'm probably the most out of shape compared to the others. When we're close to the mansion, I look back down, toward Echo. Only a few of the streetlights dot the small town. I don't see anyone on the roads near them. I see a window or two here and there with their lights on, but no movement from within. We only hear 2 sounds on our trek. One is a blood-curdling scream coming from the town behind us. A woman. TJ reaches out again for my hand when that happens, and I squeeze his comfortingly. The next, a few minutes later, is a faint laughter coming from further away that rises in pitch before fading back out. I grimace, wondering if anyone else heard it, or if it came from inside my head. No one says anything, and I don't ask. By the time we reach the mansion, I'm covered in sweat, and I keep adjusting my shirt uncomfortably as it sticks to my chest and shoulders. The garage door is closed, and there aren't any cars in the driveway. I wonder if maybe Carl already took off. I hope he did. We stand in front of the door and Leo holds out a hand to us, motioning to us to be quiet. I watch his ears poke up to full extension before he moves to the glass on the door, cupping both hands over his eyes to peer inside. We wait a tense moment, and I wonder if maybe he's looking in on something horrific. But after a while, Leo pulls back, shaking his head. Can't hear or see anything. Maybe he left, or he's with one of the others? Kudzu offers quietly, standing just behind me. Maybe. Leo appears to be thinking hard. Then he reaches out to the doorbell with an index finger. He hesitates for a full 2 seconds before pressing it. The fancy chimes ring softly from inside. I notice Leo's got a hand on his gun, watching through the glass intently. I also notice that not only is TJ pressing close to me, but so is Kudzu from the other side, his shoulder slightly ahead of mine. It's almost like he's shielding me. A minute goes by before Leo tries again. We wait another minute before Leo lets out a ragged sigh. Whether it's from relief or frustration, I'm not sure which. Considering what's happening, you'd think some people from the town would have come here to loot or something. Yeah. I look back at the town, its few glints of light staring ominously back. I'm able to suppress my shiver this time. I turn back just in time to see Leo try the door and, to my amazement, it opens. Leo seems surprised too, and lets go to let the door slowly swing open. We all stare into the blackness beyond, a few lights from the TV glowing in the darkness. Should we go in? Leo clears his throat. Well, we gotta get the keys somehow. Leo steps inside slowly, hand reaching along the wall to find a light switch. He finds it, though the light only illuminates the foyer, the housing going from goddamn dark to slightly less goddamn dark. It's just Carl's kitchen, though. Nothing seems to be out of place as far as I can see. I start to step forward too, but I can feel TJ hesitate on my hand. I look back at him. You alright? He's staring into Carl's house, his eyes wide. Yeah, I'm good. It's probably safer inside anyway, right? TJ swallows and finally steps in with me, Kudzu following close behind. The mansion is pleasantly cool against my sweaty fur. There's something strangely comforting about something as simple as the AC still running. A sense of normalcy. Leo stands there, looking around intently before moving to the cupboards. He starts opening drawers, searching the counter, looking for keys. I leave TJ to huddle on the couch before moving to the kitchen myself. Hey, can we look for Carl too? Leo pushes close a drawer full of silverware. Yeah, give me a sec. I sigh. I'll be fine. It'll be faster if I look for him while you look for keys. Leo shakes his head. Gotta stick together. I suppress another sigh and move back to the living room. Somehow TJ's already managed to fall into a doze, curled up in a small ball on the couch. How are you doing? I look over at Kudzu, who's got his arms folded, watching me closely. I'm doing okay, just kinda tense. Kudzu gives one of his rare smiles at that. No kidding? Yeah. I glance over at Leo, who's starting to rifle through some drawers full of what look like open letters. What's up? I look back at Kudzu. I'm just thinking about Carl, if he's here or not. Ah. I glance back at Leo. Hey, Leo wants us to stick together, but... I look back at Kudzu. You want to help me find Carl? Maybe you sweep the upstairs and I'll have a look in the basement real quick? Kudzu glances at Leo as well. It'll make things go a bit faster. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I really don't think anyone's in this house. Kudzu nods toward the window facing the town. From what I've seen, people here are mostly wrapped up in their own... issues. Yeah, I don't think anyone's interested in looting here. Well, alright. I'll take a quick look upstairs. I smile. Cool, I'll take a quick look downstairs. Oh, and keep a lookout for keys, too. And with that, we both move to the staircase. I give Leo one last glance to make sure he's not watching, before we both head in our respective upward and downward directions. I flip on the light switch to head into the basement, and it's only when I stare into the dark hole I'm heading toward that I get the first inklings of fear. I shake my head, remembering what Kudzu had said. If anyone's here, it's definitely only Carl, and that would be a good thing. If we can find him, we can bring him with us, and we'll be on our way out of this hellhole. I tell myself this as I bounce quickly down the stairs, wanting to get this over with as soon as possible. Excuse me. Now in the basement, I glance around quickly into the several doors down here. A storage room, a weight room, a video game looking room. I start to realize that if Carl is here, he's most likely upstairs, and I'm really just giving the basement a cursory check. I start to rush through, not wanting to take too long in case Leo notices, if he hasn't already. I reach the end of the long basement hallway, and I'm left looking into a smaller room. There's a tiny white wooden door that I assume leads to the crawl space. I stare at it for a moment, not even thinking to bother with it, until I see little white hoof prints. There are several of them, like someone came and went dozens of times into and out of the crawl space. I look back behind myself, feeling a chill run up my spine, like someone's watching me. Looking back at the prints, I notice that the little door is just slightly open. Could Carl be in there? I remember that he'd been down here when we couldn't find him during the birthday party. At that moment, I catch a glimpse of something poking out from the door. It's skinny and hairy and very long, maybe 6 inches in length. I stare at it, wondering if it's a Halloween decoration that's stored under there. Chase! Leo's voice booming down the stairs makes me jump a foot in the air. I don't have time to stare at the black thing any longer and instead stumble down the hall toward the sound of Leo's voice. The icy glare directed at me as I move up the stairs actually makes me cower a little bit. I'm not used to having his monolithic anger directed at me. I told you to stick together! His voice rumbles out at me. Sorry, I found something. Well, Kudzu did too. Carl's upstairs. What? The thoughts of the hoof prints disappear from my mind immediately. He told me you were down here. Come on. More gently now, he grasps my hand and pulls me the rest of the way upstairs. I'm expecting us to turn into Carl's room, but instead we go further toward the end of the hall. I think this is where Carl's parents' bedroom is. Carl's lying on the bed, looking over at TJ, who's in the middle of talking to him from the side. He glances our way when we enter the room. Leo? Chase? He squints at us like he's having trouble focusing. I smile inside with relief. Carl! I move to the side of the bed, next to TJ, and that's when I see that the ram is covered in a white-looking chalk substance. It reminds me of the prints downstairs. It's all over his horns, and bits of what looks like drywall is covering the pillow around his head. What happened? Are you okay? Were you just taking a nap? Easy, Leo says to me, so I shut my mouth. TJ reaches out and grabs up one of Carl's big hands. The ram just stares at the ceiling now, looking just as confused as we are. I look over at Kudzu, who's standing a little off to the side, like he did when we were trying to talk to TJ. What happened? I mumble at the raccoon, and Kudzu moves a little closer. I don't know. I just came in and thought he was taking a nap or something. I glance back at Carl, watching as TJ starts to gently pet his forehead. But he wasn't? Kudzu shrugs. He was sort of... I don't know, he was sweating and mumbling. I kept calling his name, like really loudly, to the point that Leo came up. Carl starts to breathe heavily and he covers his face. I think he's crying, so I step back a bit with Kudzu, not wanting to crowd him as TJ leans over and hugs him. It wasn't until Leo touched him that he woke up, like really suddenly. Huh. No, I'm fine. Carl lets out a weird, shaky laugh as he sits up, wiping his eyes. I was just having a really fucked up dream. Felt like I was in it for hours, man. Carl leans back on his hands, staring at the ceiling again. I had a dream that the town went fucking insane, and then I ran back here and sort of just went downstairs, and then I was... gone. Gone? Where? Carl shakes his head. I don't know, a hotel or something? A few hallways that went in circles and I couldn't get out, or wake up. Carl looks back at us. Even now I don't know if I'm dreaming. At least there's people around. Carl shakes his head, a cloud of dust coming up from the fur. What are you guys doing here anyway? Actually, the town did go a bit strange. What? Really? Leo seems to hesitate, clearly not wanting to rile up Carl more than he already is. Yeah, but we're trying to leave. Actually, that's why we're here. We need a car. So what I saw in the town, However long ago that was. It really happened? Maybe. Like, people were running around shooting and stuff. Leo doesn't say anything to that. Why do you need my car? What about your van? It broke down. Carl narrows his eyes. How? Listen, we'll tell you everything on the way. We just need to get out of here now. TJ picks some of the bits of white chalk from Carl's head fur. And what's all over you? Carl runs a hand over his head, bringing it away to find it covered in white dust. Ran into the wall. Oh. Carl suddenly points at my arm. Dude, what happened? Huh? Oh. I lift up my arm and remember the cut that I got from the broken window. The fur is heavily matted down with blood, and the jagged cut is still oozing a little bit. Long story. We'll explain, like Leo said. The ram stares at the cut, so I lower my arm. It seems to be finally settling in for Carl that things are not right. I've also realized that none of us are immune to the new hysteria setting into the town. Is this what it was like for all those people living in the town over 100 years ago? I managed to think humorously to myself that I actually did do what I set out to when I started the project. It's pretty clear that it's happening all over again. So, you got your keys? We need to get the hell out of here and get this town some help. Yeah, I'll get them from my room. And on that note, we are going to stop here for now and pick back up with Leo's route later. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see y'all next time. Bye!